I'm very interested in psychic archaeology. That is, using my psychic skills to look into the ancient past. I mean, with my own work, I've worked before with archaeologists. I've worked with museum curators, and done some very interesting experiments on television before, where I'm given an object, an artifact from the past, and using the skills of psychometry, I use my clairvoyance to sort of look into the history of that object and the owners of that object to see if I can tell something about the things that might have been missed by archaeologists, or see if something that I say can be confirmed by archaeologists. And there's a number of clips on my YouTubes that will give you some further insight into some of the experiments I did. So this idea of psychic archaeology has been used before in the past. I mean, Edgar Cayce was very interested in the idea of the Akashic records, that there's a kind of like a memory to the universal mind that we can access and read the history of the past. And he gave us lots of interesting insights into Atlantis. He gave his ideas into the ancient Egyptians and so forth. And a lot of the things that he said have started to come true. And even, what was his name? Hendrik Schielmann, if I got it right. Heinrich Schielmann. He was the fellow that found, found Troy. And I believe he used a lot of psychic techniques, in particular dowsing, to see if he could find and locate the missing and lost city of Troy, which he found and was the first to excavate. And also a lot of work went on in Glastonbury. That's the big old ancient cathedral, abbey rather, that was in Glastonbury Abbey. And there was a lot of work done by the archaeologist Frederick Blight Bond, which was, like, again, using a lot of psychic skills to look into the past. So this is something that's not entirely new, but something that I'm very interested in and have done a lot of work with. Now, I'm going to show you a clip in a minute from my movie Mystic Journey to India. And those of you that have seen it already on Amazon Prime will not recognise this clip, because this is one of the outtakes, as it were, because we couldn't use this upcoming clip because it had a fan in the background. It was so noisy that it kind of broke the concentration of the viewer. I mean, it was usable, but we wanted to get it just right, and we had to cut that movie down considerably because it was originally a three-parter. Anyway, so you're going to see some extra clips from Mystic Journey to India, and in this particular instance, I thought, well, let's try it before we go into India itself, where I was going to tune into the landscape. And later on, there's a piece in the movie where I go to Mahabalipura, which was another fascinating place, and I do some psychometry on that place. Again, we had to cut a lot of that down. I might be able to show you some of the clips from that another time. But in this particular instance, I was given some artifacts by a collector, and I was really pleased that he was able to hand me these objects, and I knew nothing about them, and I was absolutely blown away by these things. I wrote about it in a bit more detail also I'm not pushing all the time, but you might enjoy the book, my book Mystic Journey to India as well, which was all about it was the backstory of what happened in the movie. And you can see the movie on Amazon Prime for free if you're a Prime member, or you can pay to download it cheaply as well, and to watch it rather. So in this particular clip, you're going to see I was handed a number of objects, and you'll see me talk about them here. But there was one. Now I wasn't sure. I don't think in the movie I mentioned what it was called, because I wrote about it in the book, and it was called a prava. Now that's what the Indian man called it. This is the one you'll see in a minute, which is like a wand. Now, I never heard of a prava before, so correct me if any Indian people are watching this that would understand the right Tamil for this, or Sanskrit, or whatever that comes from. I hadn't heard of the word before, but when I held it, it blew me away, because it was a prava. Let me just I've got my book here, so I'm just going to tell you what I said about it, because I said this was a type of wand with 3 demons on the top that represent anger, jealousy and hatefulness. So it was quite a strange sort of object. These were mounted on a staff made of crystals and gold with strange heads carved into it. You'll see it in a minute on the actual video clip. At the base was a clear quartz crystal and a point made of gold. The juxtaposition of the gems and semi-precious stones corresponded to the 5 elements and the planets. I'm reading this because this is what the man told me and wrote to me about, so I can't remember it from memory. The gold point of this object would be placed on a chakra point of an ill person to promote healing. So this was like a very early and ancient healing wand. And I know some people nowadays like to use healing wands. So, when I held it, it was absolutely mind-boggling. It was really strange. It blew me away, and I've never been one really to subscribe to the idea of using chakras and crystals and things, because I often think it's a little bit too open to prone to fantasy. But here I am, proved wrong again, because when I held this object, and it's supposed to be very ancient indeed, to hold and talk about the history of it, I was really flabbergasted. So I think you'll find that particularly interesting in this clip. And I'm going to put a number of other videos up over a period of time, showing some of the backstory of what happened at Mystic Journey to India and some of the outtakes as well. So I hope you enjoy this clip. I found it very interesting, and let me have your comments if you know anything more that I might not know about some of these objects that were being shown to me to use for doing my little bit of, let me say, psychic archaeology. Okay, here comes the clip. Here in India, you come up to the edge of things. You see life and death very close up, and you actually see how the third world in places live next to quite a lot of horrible rubbish sometimes. Before I begin my mystic journey, I have strict instructions from Jane. What I'm going to do now, actually, is Jane said, if you're in India, I want rubies. So I'm going to go and have a look in one of the shops. And while I'm in there, I've heard this place has a lot of sacred items. And I'm going to ask the man if I might be able to do a little bit of psychometry with some of these sacred items. Let's see. To get me attuned to the vibrations of India, I asked the shop owner if I can try a bit of psychometry on his historic objects. So you have something interesting from the Buddhist time, I think.
Absolutely, sir. I do have some, like as I was telling you before that, I have a very special Buddha over here, which is very old and which has been made by the very spiritual person. I can say the monk for his own purpose.
Don't tell me too much about it.
Yeah.
Perhaps if you give it to me, I'll hold it, if I may, and see if I can tell you something about it and see if it's the same as you understand.
I would love to show you that beautiful piece to
lovely.
you, that special one. And I'm sure that you are going to feel that beautiful piece.
Psychometry is the psychic ability to sense the history of objects and places. To get me attuned to ancient India, I'm going to see if now I can link into the subtle energies from the past. This has a feeling, like you say, heart. This is people are coming to this for prosperity.
Right.
I feel this is something like it brings riches in the world. It brings hope and healing from this. And I get the feeling that sometimes that the person that worked with this has been a healer, and I feel that they have been a person that has maybe used like Ayurvedic medicines and things like this that have gone with it, and has a great knowledge of things that might come possibly from Tibet.
Exactly.
I know a little bit about Tibetan Buddhism. Would it have been a worship of a Tara?
Yes.
Tara?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, because I feel that, and a beautiful energy to this. This has been not just one person. This has been handed down. This has been handed down through a lineage, because it's been not family. It's been passed down through a group of monks. I feel with
Absolutely.
this close. Although I presume this is Indian, but I feel it's very close to outside of the Indian culture. It's like on the edge of it.
Absolutely.
And even something that might have had somebody at one owner that's been 4 generations
pass it
back.
down, yeah.
4 generations. And I feel far back there's one that was from the Tibetan and the Tibetan Bon. You know the Bon people, I feel with
Bon.
that.
What you have felt, that is almost like it is correct. So this is actually this piece has been passed down. Like I can say, it was the 3rd generation there. Near to like 4th generation was also
so
there.
Perhaps you're the 4th.
There was I'm the 4th there.
Yeah.
If you see technically, I'm the 4th one there. I'm passing down it to you.
Well, I seem to be getting quickly attuned to these sacred objects, which is an interesting psychic exercise. I'm asked to look at some very strange objects, and I sense that they've been used for magic, ritual, and healing. All this helps me to get psychically attuned and prepared for the spiritual journey ahead, where I will be tuning in to the historic energies at sacred places.
Wow. And we did some psychometry there, and that was just incredible in itself. I mean, to pick up vibrations of these ancient objects. But he also showed me what's called a praba, which is like this couldn't be filmed because it was such a sacred object. But when I held it, my whole energy body, my chakras, my everything just came alive. A light. I've never known anything like that. I've always thought that crystals, for example, are, a bit for the crazies. But this has completely transformed the way I think about these things.
Well, that was pretty interesting stuff, I think. I thoroughly enjoyed doing that. It's a shame we couldn't use it in the main movie. But like I say, you can see the feature version of the movie on Amazon Prime. But just as a little conclusion to that, I mean, I got to know the man in the who collected the artifacts, and later on I went back to him and I asked if I could purchase the Shiva Lingam that he showed me, and it wasn't for sale really, and he let me have it really very reasonably, actually, because he felt it was meant for me, and I bought it. Here it is, and I'll talk about Shiva Lingams in another video later on, but this for me is very special because his energy, as you saw in the movie, it connected with me. When I handed it to Jane, she equally had a very strong energy feeling from this, and described very similar things to what I had talked about before. So it's a very old one. I'm able to trace the history of it, and the man that owned it before me, it was owned by a holy man some way back, actually, in his family, and I was able to get the history of it. But I'll talk about it another time. But for me, a Shiva Lingam sits at the centre of my meditation room at the moment, and I have a meditation and yoga area, a sort of sacred space where I can work. And one day I feel this will become the centre, perhaps, of our spiritual centre, because I like the thought of having a holier object at the centre of our spiritual centre, as it were. That sounds a mouthful, doesn't it? But so this would act as, I feel, will one day become very significant as part of that. But it's a beautiful object, and those that understand about these things will recognise it as I think a beautiful thing. But anyway, I'll talk about these. They're naturally formed in rivers, and it's very special in a particular place in India. But I'll talk all about that another time. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching that clip from Mystic Journey. Please go and watch it, because I'd like people to see the work that I do there, and I'll do some more clips of it in coming weeks and months. Okay, well, thanks for watching, and don't forget, click that little bell thing, that little bell thing when you subscribe, and you'll get updates of my channel all the time, and that way you'll be able to follow me every week, and hopefully more as time goes on, if I get more time to make more videos like this. And please do give me your questions as well, because I do read them, and they might not come up immediately, but I do try to answer as many questions as I can in little mini videos. It's interesting to interact and leave some comments, because I'd like to know your thoughts. Have you come across interesting things like this before? Have you been interested in the Akashic records, perhaps Edgar Casey's work? Maybe you've had some you've done some psychometry yourself, or you've witnessed something, or might know something about some of these objects that I showed you there today. Okay, see you next time. Bye for now. I have discovered a secret oracle in India that has on it the name of my mother, the name of my father, my name, my brother's name, my wife's name, all the details about my life from the moment I was born and right into the future. And it even tells me the time of my death. And to access this oracle, all it needed was my thumbprint.
I'm here in India on my first mystic journey. In the UK and USA, Jane and I are known as the most psychic couple on the planet.
I really enjoyed the reading with Craig because he hit some real accuracies about my father and our relationship.
I've been a psychic medium for years. We have both had a fruitful life and seen many mystical things, but my trip to India has certainly opened even my eyes. As psychics, we have both been invited to do many TV shows about the paranormal, but what I'm about to experience in India is absolutely astonishing. So astonishing that even my wife Jane couldn't get her head round it. I have come to India to visit its temples and to do its rituals and change my fate. Everything the Oracle has told me about my life so far is astonishing. What it has to say is so mind-boggling that I feel compelled to make this crazy journey in order to undertake the magical remedies it prescribes. I want to find out if these nadi leaves are a myth or the real thing. And if so, maybe I can uncover their secrets and discover if they can help other people too. On this journey, I meet a holy man who sleeps in a raging fire and is claimed will live for hundreds of years. This Siddhi yogi never eats, lives in a cave, and few people ever get to meet him. I am guided by two astrologers that help me clear my karma and explain to me the rituals that I must undertake. I am stunned by the beautiful landscapes and overwhelmed by the magical temples and mystic places. I love the people and the animals of India. I am visiting places where few Westerners ever go. It's a cultural shock and spiritual awakening. I feel an overwhelming inner transformation. Will I find the guiding light I need? My search takes me thousands of miles across India's breathtaking landscapes, and I see magnificent things. To clear my karma, the Oracle has told me to do charitable work, undertake magical rituals and remedies. This is the adventure of a lifetime. This is my mystic journey.